Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have Joe Louis Walker. That's right. This is my third interview, I believe, with Joe Louis Walker. So he's a regular on the program of sorts over the years. For a couple of years, we have Joe on, and it's always a great conversation. First time I interviewed him was at Yoshi's in Oakland. Jens and I actually interviewed him there. He was wearing these really awesome alligator skin boots, which are super cool. We made sure to talk about that, and when Jens and I talk about Joe, those boots always come back up. So it's really awesome. And then I interviewed him last year, I believe, when he was promoting his record at the time. But he has a new album that's out November 12th called Eclectic Electric, and so we're going to get into that as well as a lot of other great stuff that Joe has to share in just a little bit. But before we do, I will provide an update on what's going on in my world. Pretty excited because I don't take a lot of trips or vacations. Sometimes when I talk to artists about their tours, it comes up that I haven't left the country ever as an adult. It's going to happen sometime. It will. Just I don't know when. Now's not the time, I don't think. So, and so I took a trip. I took a little road trip, not a big road trip, but a little road trip with my dog Basil. And we went to Lake Tahoe for this past weekend. Took a little 3-day weekend, stayed in a hotel near the lake. And I just wanted to get away. I didn't have the kids, and I wanted to get away and just get out. And so I did that. I hung out with Basil. I took him down to the beach, which he really enjoyed. And then, I got to hang out with a friend who lives down there as well. So that was a lot of fun. I think it's probably only fitting that I share a picture of Basil on the beach for those that are watching on YouTube. So let me grab it. Did not prepare that ahead of time, but here it is. Basil on the beach. He's my Husky Shepherd, and he had a blast. So if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher, you can also watch on YouTube and be able to see a picture of my dog Basil if you are checking it out on YouTube. So shameless plug there. So we spent the first day together, just Basil and I, and I hung out and I had some drinks. Nothing too crazy. Just I think I made a frozen pizza. It was living just. I threw all caution to the wind with my diet over the weekend, I'll just say, because I ate a lot of crap and drank a lot, and I had a good buzz on throughout the weekend. And then I caught up with my friend Colleen, who I've been friends with for about 20 years, coming on 20 years now. And she moved to Nevada a couple of years back. And so I don't get to see her that often. She doesn't come to California that much. I don't go to Nevada that much. And the last time I did go to Nevada was actually to pick up a case of beer from her that I had shipped to her. It was a gift for my buddy Joe. And I didn't even get to see her because I went to her house and I didn't even get to see her because I had a sniffle, and it was a time when there was lots of COVID stuff going around. And even though I'm vaccinated, I want to play it safe, right? So it was good for Colleen and I get to hang out for a bit this past weekend. She spent the day with me. We were double screening. She had on her phone the Giants game going, and on the TV in the hotel we were watching the 49ers game. So representing San Francisco. Great job, Giants, by the way. They pulled it out and won the last game of the season, which put them at what is it? I think 107 games to get the title, and that's their biggest streak ever, from what I understand. So, and then the 49ers, they played. They didn't really win, but they played. So, so it was fun to do that. What else are you? Oh yeah. So one of the people that I work with actually recommended this kayak trip on the lake where you can kayak at night, and then the kayaks have LED lights on them. and so you could change the colors of the LEDs and everything, and it's really cool. We did that. I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do it. So we took out these kayaks, and it was led by a tour guide. Before we even got to the dock, the tour guide was like, you might see bears and you might see beavers, maybe some other wildlife. We'll see, right? We didn't even get to the dock, and we saw a black bear. Yeah, it was really surprising. It was just there. The black bear was there, and it was pretty intense. I mean, I don't see a lot of black bears in my world, so actually getting to see one. Another benefit here, I'll share the picture of the black bear that I saw. It was behind a shed, and it was grabbing in the recycle bin. You could, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see the recycle bin tilted over, the bear tilted it over, grabbed a bag, he took off with the whole bag, and the tour guide just chased him away, not even scared of him at all. He's used to the bears being around, and he said that he taught us a lot out on the ride. He told us a lot, shared a lot of stories, but he said that bears are omnivores, and so they don't seek out to eat people, the black bears at least. They rather have other shit, plants and stuff, and apparently garbage than people. So there's a bear there. Pretty cool. We got in the kayaks. We went out for an hour and a half there were a handful of other groups that were there, and paddled around the lake. We saw a couple of beavers as well, which was cool, and just hung out while the tour guide told a bunch of stories and talked to us. It was a lot of fun. It was a great getaway, and then came back on Monday and went to Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. That show at the Palace of Fine Arts. I went with my buddy Joe, his wife Jackie, and my buddy John actually flew up from Los Angeles because he had already said he'd go to the show before before he moved to Los Angeles. So it was awesome of him to keep his word with that, and it was really great to see him because I don't get to see him too much. So that was a lot of fun, and Andrew McMahon, just my favorite musician. So getting to see him live is always a treat. It's actually really really cool because it's not just a concert to me. It's an experience, and Andrew McMahon always reinvents himself every tour that he has. He always reinvents his live performance and does it differently. This performance is in support. It's called the Three Pianos Tour, and it's in support of his memoir, which is coming out at the end of the month, called Three Pianos, which, yes, I have pre-ordered and look forward to reading. But it's pretty much his story that he's telling between three pianos that are pivotal to him as he's grown up, and he's in a conversation with these pianos. So really a lot of fun, and he plays songs from throughout the span of his career. He's had he's had his three bands: Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, and he combines it all into this amazing show, tells stories throughout, and is really a great live performer. So I really enjoyed getting to see him, and consider myself really fortunate to have gotten to go with some of my closest friends as well, because things are really tough right now, and you don't know what's what out there in the world, and with COVID and everything along those lines, right? If you feel pretty safe, but then you get an email from your kid's school that says that there's a COVID exposure in your kid's aftercare program, and you're like, okay, do I have to quarantine my kid? Does that mean they need to get a negative COVID test? Who was it? You don't get to know, but it's someone there. Did my kid interact with that kid? Do I have to keep my eyes out for symptoms? You always do, but you got to worry about this shit, and I'm ready to be done with it. And I'll tell you, I'll just put it out here on the program right now that, like, I'm so excited for what Gavin Newsom is doing with requiring children to be vaccinated. It's been a conversation between myself and my kid's mom as to whether we would get it. I think it's pretty clear which side I land on, but whether we'd get it for the kids. She wasn't completely sold, and even though she herself is vaccinated, and I am. I want this to end. I want us to do everything we can to get past this, and that's our duty to do that. So, it just took a lot of pressure off for that, and I can't. I'm excited to do that with the kids. Yeah. So that's the plan. That's what's going on. That's what's going on in the world right now, in my world anyway. So I won't waste any more time. Let's go ahead and bring in Joe Louis Walker. I had a really fun chat with him. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah. First off, Joe, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. And
oh man,
it's always great to get to talk to you. I got to speak to you last year, and I think last year we were in a little bit different climate than we are right now, right? So
yeah.
So that's good. So I'll ask you, how are you holding up? How are things going for you these days?
Well, I mean, as far as performing, I'm performing more, which is sort of cathartic. And with the record coming out, that's it's always good to have something to look forward to and something positive. I mean, to me, music is the most positive thing that I can do, and so and it's good to be able to go out and perform and see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while, and also to get some of this music inside me that's out. So I'm feeling positive about it. I do realize that everything could change, by from up high, everything might have to close again or this or that. I understand it.
Yeah, it's a time where we kind of don't want to take it for granted, but we want to take advantage a little bit, right? Like I've been able to go to some live concerts, and it's just you miss that. I miss that energy. I mean, it's going over a year without going to concerts is the longest I've ever been not to a concert. I'm sure it's the same for you, right?
Well, I had it taken away from me before when I had to stay home to raise my two daughters up from being teenagers to a little older. So I know what it is to do without it, but not in this particular vein, not in this way where it's the great unknown and so much going on. And, it's just, you know what I mean?
Oh, I do, because I have two kids too, and it was the same for me. It was my choice as versus it being taken away from you, right? Like, I mean, as my kids were, young and starting to grow up, I stepped away from concerts and only went to a couple in a year, and then it was just this thing that was missing, which is why I brought this back as a podcast. Is like I miss concerts so much, getting back out to them again, has been great. So tell me about the Thorogood shows that you did last week.
Well, those were a lot of fun. We did about 7, 8, I forgot how many. We just traveled all over the Eastern Seaboard here. I've known George since about '89. I known him. I did some shows with him back then, and some shows. We worked together and we're on the same bill. Sometimes, but I hadn't seen him in quite a while. And we have a lot of fun together because he's very self-deprecating. He just doesn't take this thing too darn serious.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I interviewed him like 18 years ago or something, and it was the same thing. Like through the whole interview, he was so modest. But then at the end, like I was talking to him about playing BB King's Blues Club, in New York, which is where I was interviewing him, and versus big like amphitheaters, and he was like, well, and this will stick with me forever, but he's like, Steve, there's one thing I want you to know. With the exception of Tom Jones, I am the greatest live entertainer in the planet. I could play any, you said it too, right?
Oh yeah, but I'm telling you, man. Oh, it's just nonstop. We just have just a heck of a time because he can wind you up, and I'm real good at winding you up too. So I mean, we just have fun with it, and it's refreshing, because George, he's one of those guys that will help other artists, without wanting any you know, any, it don't have to be in the press, and it don't have to be, you know, but he's one of those guys that I always say about George and Johnny Winters, who I like quite a much, was that, you know, my personal relationship with George and Johnny was that they never forgot where they came from. They just never, ever forgot how hard it is to be a musician, how fickle the industry is, and, you know, how lucky they were, you know, to be able to, you know, be picked out of a crowd of 90 million and said, oh, that's the guy, you know? And so they know that it's 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration.
Yeah. So he still puts it out. It's been a while since I've seen him live, so he still puts it all out there on stage, right? Like, so bad to the bone.
Oh yeah, yeah. When, you know, I like it because George is in the I would say the lineage type of a Chuck Berry or Bo Diddley. That's why him and Bo Diddley got along so good, because when you see George, you know what kind of show you're gonna get. You know, you know it's gonna be a show. You know he's gonna that's his lane. You know, and you better be damn good at his lane, because he's the best George that George can be. You know, Bo Diddley was the best Bo Diddley. Chuck Berry, you knew you were gonna get the duck walk at some point. You know, and when you get the duck walk, it's the same reaction from 1958 to 2008. The same reaction. And that just shows the connection that they have with the audience, as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, people are just dying at these shows. They're waiting for George to do one bourbon, one scotch. He never says one beer anymore. No? They say one beer. No, they say it.
They just let them say it, right?
Yeah, you know, yeah. And George, he's so funny. He'll come down before the show and says, Joe, you know, you're a star, you know, but you're just a star in this universe. I'm a star in all universes. And I'm like, George, I didn't know but it was but one universe. He said, right. Well, I just showed you what you know, Joe. Just showed you what you know. And I said, well, you know, I haven't been that high all day, George. You're just having fun, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
yeah. So how was it for you to be back on stage? I mean, I'm sure you've done a good handful of shows at this point since.
Well, it was great, you know. But I mean, with George, I go on stage by myself, acoustically, just me and the harmonica and the rack and the slide guitar, if I feel like it. And so I like it. I love it this way. My wife loves it this way because they can really hear my voice. You know, I'm not fighting for a frequency, which you know, it just goes with playing live. You know, it's only so many frequencies, and once you get on that frequency, you know, your voice has to be out there a little bit. And so you're sort of singing over the whole big schlemiel, but you know, it's hard to do nuances in that. Yeah. So if you want to hold a note softly for quite a while, it's really easier when you got 12,000 people and they've been listening to you. You're really doing it. Then you just wow. Everybody's moving, leaning forward. Then you know you got them.
Yeah, got their attention.
Usually with the band, you got people, oh man, wow, yeah, dude, yeah. But when you're doing solo, you can do real subtle stuff, you know? And so I got to do some of that and some songs that I don't normally do. So, I mean, it was great, you know? Plus, it's just me and my wife traveling, you know, or either just me with them or whatever. And it's really easy, you know, when I have the band, it's very rewarding, but it's so much with the preparations, with making sure the rooms are there, with times dinner, with times this, with times that, you know, it's like you're traveling with, you know, your kids.
Yeah, a lot you have to focus on, and got to keep them on a leash and everything.
No, not so much that.
No, of course. But your wife, like, does she provide a lot of feedback and kind of tell you, I mean, can you go to her for like honesty towards, you know, hey, is this working or is that, or is she just supportive? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. If I go to my daughter used to sing it to me. If I go to my daughter for feedback, the first thing she's gonna say, "Well, I sounded good."
Yeah.
So, but I mean, no, my wife gets it, and she'll come once in a while and say, "Hey, you sounded really good tonight,"
Yeah.
But I mean, I've known my wife for 33 years. We haven't been married that long, but it took me a while to make up my mind. But I mean, she's seen me in different configurations for a long time, and her favorite configuration is when I play solo. So she really, because she's out there and she can see people say, "Oh man, the guy, he can sing," I mean, because I'm not singing just blues. I'm singing gospel songs. And I might sing "That's All Right, Mama." I might sing a country song, "Moving On" by Hank Snow, my way, or I might do something something off the new album. So it gives people a bit of a more of a rounded issue. Whereas if they just hear one thing on the radio by Joe Louis Walker, "Too drunk to drive drunk this time," they may think I'm just about that. But I do other things also.
Yeah, of course. And with the blues in general, I mean, this last year and a half, almost 2 years, a lot of people have had, a lot to feel the blues. So to kind of the music of the blues has really, I think, resonated with a lot of people. And there's a lot that's hitting us all, that's unifying us together in that sense. And I don't think it has to be as blatant as singing about COVID or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I guess my question around that is there stuff that you've been able to pull from? Obviously you have new music, but is there stuff that you've been able to pull from what's been going on that's to everybody versus something that may have affected you personally over these past couple of years?
Well, I was just telling the guy that interviewed me, a nice friend of mine, that, to be quite honest, I've been asked, "Hey, have you written any songs out of this COVID thing or this and that?" And my most honest answer to you is, I want to be the guy to write when COVID is over, how much it was something that nobody liked. I want to be able to write. I want to write COVID's obituary. I don't want to write anything else. I don't want to write all the artists who say they will play somewhere and this, or the artists who say they won't play. I don't want to get into any of that, because we all know how we feel about that anyway. That's the politician's lane, That's the politician's lane. And it's like somebody said, do you want to get your medical advice from a guitar player or a politician, or do you want to get it from a doctor? Well, I don't even want to get into that. I don't want to get into, do you get your politician from the religion? I don't want to get into that. Do you get your religion from religion? I sure don't want to get into that. To me, that's it's not very rewarding to me. I want to do something that's cathartic. When this baby is on its last legs, I want to be the one to say, "Well, you know what? See ya. Don't ever want to see you and be you again. Goodbye. I didn't enjoy anything about you. I have nothing good to say about you. And while you're at it, take cancer with you, Something like that."
Yeah. If you can write that obituary soon, I think we're all about ready for it to be done. So,
I could write it soon, but we ain't there yet.
No. I'm ready for it to be done, though. I tell you, it's a tough one. Now, you put out an album last year. I mean, I'm sure there was a different process for you with Blues Coming On than you had with previous albums. Like, how did you change your approach with Blues Coming On versus your previous albums?
Well, with Blues Coming On, I went into it saying, you know what, I want to get a lot of my friends to sing on this record and play on this record. And mostly everybody that we asked did it. A couple of bigger stars didn't do it, but I expect that. Although some surprised me and said, "Yeah, I would do it, Joe," but then they're cool, and then the management says, "No," and then you get that rigmarole. But last year's record was it was sort of bittersweet, because I arranged the song Blues Coming On to fit me. And I took a demo that Dion DiMucci gave me, just him and his guitar. And me and the engineers and the producers, we took this demo, just the beginning of it, just him in the first, like, I don't even think it's 8 bars. And out of that, we kept that and we put what I had arranged and we put them together, and it really worked because I was able to keep that spontaneity of Dion's demo. And then I came in with the background vocals, Eric Gales with the lead guitar, Waddy Wattel with rhythm guitar, me with rhythm guitar, Dion with his acoustic rhythm guitar, 2 drummers, Tom Hambridge and Dorian Randolph, and all the backgrounds. And I was able to make a complete song out of that. I didn't know that he was going to let the same song out, but with him and another guy named Joe, and at the same time on the same day. I didn't know that,
No.
you know. But I did tell him, you know, I'm going to name this is going to be the premier song on the record. I'm going to name the album that, and everybody was cool with it. So it was just one of those things. And it just shows that a good song can be done in a number of different ways. But I was really happy to be able to have all my friends from years ago perform on that record with me, Jorma Kaukonen and Mitch Ryder and people like that, Jesse Johnson from the time, and on and on and on. Because people forget these guys after they haven't sold millions and millions of records like they've all done. But they all are still, some of them gotten even better. In fact, most of them have gotten better.
Yeah. And they're your friends, so it was easy to kind of call them up and make that happen, right? So I mean, these are people you've known for a long time.
Well, it wasn't easy because you know, with Jorma, I had to wait, you know, like a year to get him to be able to free it up to do that. So when, you know, everything was started being locked down, it was perfect that we had already got Jorma on the record because we had to wait a year prior to that. So this record wasn't made in a month or 2 months.
No.
This record was made over the course of a year. And so, and most of it was waiting for people's schedules to free up. That was most of it was waiting because I had to get the music ready, make sure when they got a free minute, oh man, you can do it. That was before that we locked down. You know, that was before we had the COVID lockdown.
Yeah, and you're glad you put it out when you did, right? Because I mean, a lot of people paused. No. Would you have held it off if you could?
I would have let it put it. Yeah, I would have let it out anytime before, or anytime afterwards. I mean, I have so many friends of mine that let out really good records, and nobody heard them.
Yeah,
you know, because they couldn't go out and tour behind them, so they couldn't do the interviews like they're doing with you. To
playing live or
playing live to get some momentum going, to say, hey, you know, this is okay. I mean, even Dion's version of the song and Dion's record, Blues with Friends, it did good, you know, selling, but Dion was supposed to do a whole tour. Dion was supposed to be playing Carnegie Hall. There was a play coming out about him that had to be postponed. It won't be coming out the next year. And if we're all rowing in the same direction, because if things go east again, I shouldn't say east, but if things go bad again, you can see it now, the direction things are going in, you know, especially in New York City. Now the teachers are fighting with the government, and you know, and so we're having this thing where we can't row in the same direction on this particular issue. But it seems like, I don't know, just to be quite honest, in the last 7 or 8 years, we haven't been able to roll in the same direction on hardly anything, you know, just to be quite honest about it.
Everything's been so divided.
Yeah, everything's so polarized, where a little thing becomes this huge, humongous things where we used to talk, we used to disagree, you know. Now we don't disagree with each other, we despise each other. You know, we don't, I don't even know how to explain it. And it's not across the board. I think it's the loudest voices, you know, and it's the most outrageous things, you know. So we've got, it's sort of sad because everything sort of bleeds over into everything else. So when you have the COVID, people who don't want the thing and people who do, and you have, say, a big rock star or rock blues star saying, hey, I got a bad reaction, and I'm not going to do shows that people can't do this and that and then a good person says, well, you really want to get your medical advice from a 77-year-old rock star?
I know who you're talking about, by the way.
Or do you want to get it from, the CDC and a doctor who help get rid of AIDS? Well, I don't want to get involved in that. If somebody wants to get their medical attention from a rock star, who's saying GLORIA, fine, great. I know the guy. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going I on this record, you're talking about Dion's record, me and that guy and Dion did a trio together thing.
Yeah.
I love the guy. I know his mother and father. I'm not going to take medical advice from him.
No.
I'm just not, nothing personal. I'm not going to take medical advice from my daughter.
Yeah.
But what I'm not going to do is go out and write a song and say, everybody should get vaccinated. And if you don't get vaccinated, you're a jerk.
That's a hit, by the way. That was great. You just did that. Like, that is a hit.
Or you're stepping on my rights. My freedom's all gone. If you get back, I'm not going to do that because I don't know. I don't know. All I know is what I can say about myself. Yeah. And I try to do, my homework, but that's not my lane. That is not my lane, and I don't want to be in a /political / medical pandemic lane and giving advice to people, especially, when I just shot half of Mexico in my arm and snorted the other half of Peru up my nose for 55 years. And then I'm gonna claim that, what? My hand swole up? Well, I got a question. It's the honest question. No disrespect to anybody. When you were shooting all that dope, drinking all that alcohol and calling people all out of their name, how many times did you end up in the hospital ODing? How many? Yeah. Did you know what was in all that heroin you were shooting? Because my favorite saying is, you got to be crazy. I did it back in the day, and I don't remember ever a drug dealer being okay by the CDC. I don't remember ever a person snorting drugs or taking drugs saying, "Hey, what's in this?"
I know.
Just remember. So now all of a sudden, this is where we at, and that's okay. But as far as Joe Louis Walker is concerned, I'm not giving advice to anybody about that. That's a personal decision, and I don't think that I don't give how many gold records you got, or how many followers you got, that you should be giving out that kind of information for one reason. You got the shot. You didn't turn it down. Okay. No. So now, when you get the shot, now you're saying two things now.
Talking out of two sides of your mouth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, man, but come on now. But more power to you. And I think people evolve. As that rock star did from the 70s when he called everybody all kinds of different things, and it's so be it. I think people evolve, and I think everybody has a chance at redemption or whatever. So I really don't. I don't really take that for being handed down as something law or something. I just take it as somebody who had a bad reaction, who was pretty ticked off, and now there's like-minded people, and you sort of. I won't say pandering to those like-minded people, but you're saying what they want to say. And what happens is everybody who speaks to their tribe, it's a circle, it's a great group in California, the circle jerks. It's just a long circle jerk is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the same on the other side, it can be the same on it. So when it comes to me, I have no advice to anybody about taking that other than to do what you think's right for you and your family. But just realize this: and I said this to somebody in my family who refuses to get it, is this. When you tell me, oh, Papa Joe, Uncle Joe, people are dying from this. Man, people are dying from that shot. It's all kind of people dying from it. Okay, great. I got a piece of paper here that says 640,000 people now died from not having the vaccine. How many people have died that you have a paper to show me that have died from getting the shot? I'll wait.
Right. We're still waiting. We're going to be waiting for a while.
Still waiting. Still waiting. So, I mean, but use that, to me, use the scientific deduction. When you start using the emotional deduction or my tribe deduction or my people's deduction or my experience deduction or this, well, everybody's not going to have your experience. Everybody's not from your tribe. Everybody's not from your church. If I had a dime for every pastor that it was the spouting, don't take the thing, and now they're on their deathbed saying, I was wrong. Well, I wish I'd have took it. Well, what about the 10,000 people that are in your congregation that you told not to take it? So the best thing to do is just don't talk about it, man. Right. Either if you want to do it because scientifically. If you don't want to do it, I would, in my humble opinion, say, make sure that you have some, a plan B and some scientific facts when you make a decision. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
And please don't listen to the politicians. Whatever you do,
It sucks to take something that's medical and make it political. I'll just say that, right? Yeah. Because this is a health thing, not a politics thing. This doesn't have a green or blue or a red.
Yeah.
Red or blue.
They got a white or black or none of that.
No. It's not an
You can't out legislate a pandemic.
No.
You can't shoot it. You can't rip the mask off a pandemic. You can't do it.
No.
So at any rate, we got that out of our system.
We did. We got past that. So let's talk about something fun. And I'm sure I talked to you about this last year when I interviewed you, but it's just, I love the stories. So the Fillmore in San Francisco, you pretty much grew up there in a sense, right? Like, yes. You lived right near it, but give me a good story about the Fillmore, something that excited you, either a show you went to there or one of the times that you got to many times you've gotten to play there.
Well, I just I was fortunate. I got to see the Fillmore in basically all of its sort of gestations. I got to see it when our neighborhood was primarily like Harlem in the 30s. Mm-hmm. It was basically some Japanese, African American, Jewish, and a few more different, but the majority of the people that lived there, that was it. And so the film auditorium was run by a guy named Charles Sullivan, who was he wasn't only there to make money for the theater, but he was there. It was our community playhouse. So when all the bands in the area needed a place to do our battle of bands when we were 14 and 13 and stuff, and you go through certain, okay, you'd work your way up to be able to get on that stage. Then Charles Sullivan would have the whole day for young people to come and have their battle of bands. And when you're a kid, man, and you're 14 years old and 13, you got on your best suits. With my cousins, we're playing, and your girlfriends and the girls you're trying to impress is out there, and your hair, you're immaculate, and your mom, everybody's there, they're proud of you, and it's just a special thing. So I seen it go from that to putting on gospel shows where they had Little Richard when he had religion. I took my grandmother to that show. I'll never forget when I was 14, see Little Richard there, and my friend sent a picture and he says, "Hey Joe, the guitar player in the picture is left-handed. That might be that other guy." I said, "You know what? It could have been. I don't know too many other guys." So I think Jimmy might have been with him, but so there was all that, and then like two things happened. Justin Herman, who was the city planner in San Francisco at the time, they introduced a thing with some of the Black reverends called redevelopment. And redevelopment was this. Me and all my friends who lived in the Fillmore in the Haight, there was no Haight Ashbury, it was the Haight. We all that area from the foot of Market and Haight Street to all the way to the Panhandle, Stanier Street, to the mouth, all the Haight, all the Fillmore, that part was basically kids like me growing up, our parents leaving the South and building a life for themselves. But it was mixed. A lot of Jewish people, a lot of Black people, and what have you. The Fillmore was mostly Japanese and Black and Jewish. So you had that dynamic, you know. And so what eventually happened was one day when I was about, I don't know, 15, 16, you know, a lot of young kids started moving from other different parts, Iowa, Chicago, musicians coming out playing the Fillmore Auditorium when Charles Sullivan gave it to, turned on to let Bill Graham have it, that we had homegrown groups, the Mystery Trend, the Warlocks, who ended up being dead. You had not very many. You had the Jefferson Airplane with Signe Anderson singing, not Grace Slick. And you had some of the brothers too, Johnny Mars, harmonica. But most of us brothers, we were still playing the small, you know, the ghetto clubs. We still had them and playing the California Hall, which is a nice hall, and the American Theater, which is on Fillmore. So, but one day when that configuration hit, Justin Herman, a little bit earlier, had said that we needed to move out of the Fillmore. They were going to refurbish, fix the streets, fix this, fix that, and you know, we'd come back and our beautiful Victorians were going to be there. Nope. Justin Herman took our Victorians and put them on a big giant crane and moved them to Pacific Heights and moved us all to the projects. So I went from living in a 3-story house to the projects, okay?
Oh my gosh.
But we got lucky. We got our house back. My father was dogged. We moved back to our house, but it was not where it was on McAllister Street. It was on Pine Street, and which was the cusp of Pacific Heights. So we got our house back. But at that time, by the time we got our house back, I was 16 years old. You know, I was 14 there. Now I'm 16, 2 years in the projects. Now I'm moving back to the house. I'm grown at 16. I joined the union when I was 14. So I left home. You know, I'm like, shit, what am I coming back to this for? You know, I mean, so and the music mirrored that. So what was our community playhouses and where we'd have things like that for our community. Bill Graham and the Mime Troupe didn't have that connection to our community. So when they came in, they were doing benefits for Breads and Roses, maybe, things like that. But they weren't doing benefits for our community. You know, they weren't bringing the Temptations, the real Temptations, like I seen when I was 13. They wasn't bringing James Brown there, but they weren't bringing any Bobby Blue Bland there no more.
Yeah. Now
it was strictly the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Message Service, and they had some rockier Black guys. But Sly Stone wasn't playing the Fillmore.
Yeah.
He didn't play the Fillmore until he became Sly and the Family
Stone. Yeah.
And he had hit records. So you had to sort of be, you know, the complexion changed in more ways than one. But here's the cool part about it, is that people started getting together. And so when people started getting together, it was like, okay, Bill Graham said, I'm gonna start putting all the old blues guys on these shows. Okay, we got the Matrix Club down here, which Marty Ballin bought in. All the blues guys can play there for 3-4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, and then play the big place here, you know, on the weekend. And then he got the Winterland. Did well, we could do the big acts like the Who and them kind of guys there. Okay, so you got all that juxtaposition going on, and nobody's complaining because everybody working. And then go down the way, you got the Family Dog, you know. So you had all that. Plus, you had a lot of the ghetto clubs, but not in the Fillmore because they had tore down everything. All of our Hickory Pits, all our theaters, the Temple Theater, the American, all gone, gone. So it's like a bomb dropped, you know. And so we had us musicians who were there before. We had to find a way to re-navigate that. So most of us, like me, I started playing in Richmond, Oakland, Vallejo. Then I moved to Davis, and I started playing with the Oxford Circle. And then Paul Whaley, the drummer, left. He said, "I'm starting another group." And he started Blue Cheer. And he said, and when Blue Cheer imploded, Whaley would come and say, he would get guys who were in our sphere there with the Oxford Circle, says, "Hey, Joe, I need you to come to LA and play the Whiskey Go-Go and help me. I got these contracts for Blue Cheer." You don't say who's in Blue Cheer. You just say Blue Cheer. You're one of the members that was in here before. You were in the precursor Oxford Circle, so I can take you, Bruce Stevenson, or Ralph, Indian Ralph, our friend Indian Ralph, or I can take Jim Keeler, and this is Blue Cheer. As long as I'm there, I'm Paul Wade. I started Blue Cheer. So we go do stuff like that all over. So it was, you know, it was really, I think, a fertile time for people mixing together musically as well as culturally. And for a while, it really worked. And then I know that three things got involved: money for all the musicians who didn't have money. All of a sudden, people you lived around the corner from, I lived around the corner from Bobby Weir and them. They moved up there to they lived up on the they lived on Ashbury Street between Waller and Frederick. I lived on Waller right around the corner when I was moved out of the house with my parents. I lived right around the corner. So I hear the Dead rehearsing 3 in the afternoon, playing the same song 3 at night. Nobody complained because all young, you know, people were digging what's going on. But when people like the Dead or James Gurley, friend of mine, played with Big Brother, or my friend Jerry Miller, Moby Grape, or whatever, or Bloomfield, the guy that I used to live with, when they started making millions of dollars, you would not believe the sharks that came out. Lawyers, managers. I mean, it was just totally, it was open season on young people who wanted just to, you know, to have fun. And man, what happened was it just, you know, just to see what happened to everybody, it's the age-old story. You know, they got separated from their money. They were given a lot of drugs, all the drugs you want, all the cars you want, big house, this, that, and the other. Excess. And I ain't talking about the Australian group. I mean, just excess to the nth degree. And what happened was people started dropping off and dying, you know. And that, to me, the influx of a lot of money, influx of a lot of drugs, and then the element that started coming with the drugs, you know. A lot of people say it started at Woodstock, the hippie movement, and ended at Altamont. No, it started in Monterey Pop Festival, which was before Woodstock. And then Altamont is one of the places where, it did sort of end, because you seen what happened in the movie. It's just, you know, it breaks your heart, you know, that we had this peace love movement, and for the most part, everybody in that audience was peaceful. You know, it was just the group that got turned loose, man. And they probably wouldn't have done what they done if they wouldn't have had all that bad acid and just a lot of weird stuff going on. So that trajectory sort of, and all that, you know, and I'll leave it alone. Something that came along with the Fillmore and the advent of young people rising and doing what they wanted to do was also, most important thing, I think, was that we invented FM radio. You know, before that, you know, you had to play a song, it had to be 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you know. But when FM radio came along, one of the first songs we played was John Fogerty and them, what Clearwater doing Susie Q, 9 minutes of Susie Q. Just on and on and on. It was like being at a concert.
Yeah.
It was really, and people heard that all over the world, and all those groups wanted to come play the Fillmore because they heard that kind. You could use, and then John Hammond did something that at the same time they wanted to cut like a Rolling Stone, Bob Dylan's record in half, A side to B side. And Bob Dylan said, "No, man, this is one whole song. Play it all on one side, I don't play it at all." And Hammond said,
Right.
"I'm backing him up." And so that opened up AM radio a bit. But after that song, it might got a little bit longer, but everybody just went back to that little tight format, but you just think if Bob Dylan if that hadn't happened and we hadn't done FM radio, where could you play A Day in the Life? Where could you play songs that were where could you play What's Going On by Marvin Gaye?
Right.
You know what I mean? Songs that didn't have wasn't no break in the middle of the album.
Yeah. No.
Where could you play Abbey Road?
Yeah.
So
No
it
place
had
for
to
it.
be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a stop at the top of the hour, but I want to make sure we hit on the new album, Eclectic Electric. I mean, it's great. I love it.
Thank you.
And you did some covers on there that are, I mean, really awesome as well. 8-minute version of Hotel California, which is incredible. It was just so great. I mean, it's just what I want to say about it, and I want to get your take on kind of when you do these covers. I mean, you did Hotel California, Werewolves of London, All She Wants to Do Is Dance, right? All these great classics. And I mean, when you're approaching a cover song like that, how do you find that balance to pay tribute to the original artist and but make it your own at the same time?
Well, what I did was this whole record, Eclectic Electric. I just took a request from different producers I work with, people I know, musicians, this record label, and everybody said, you had a lot of success with your version of Why My Guitar Gently Weeps. You had a lot of success with your version of Heart of Stone. People sort of like it. Can you take some songs and put your own stamp on them? I said, well, yeah, sure. And I like a challenge. So with Werewolves of London, that was easier for me because Waddy Wachtel is like my brother from another mother. He's all over the record, the first record you talked about, Blues Coming On. So Waddy agreed to play the slide guitar. So what I did, what the band did, really, we made it funky. And Waddy added the rock, the loud to it. I added the funk. Okay, so we have that good, we could do that.
Yeah.
With All She Wants to Do Is Dance, it's the same thing. We did Kochmore's song, Danny's, and Danny's a friend of mine because he's in the group with Waddy. So
Immediate Family, I interviewed them last year too. So
he was going to play on that song, but they got tied up with their schedule, so Koch couldn't play on this song. The real outline was Hotel California, and I figured if I'm going to do that, I got to change this totally around. So I made it sort of reggae bluesy, and I had Larry Coryell's son, Morale Coryell, come and play the real lead guitar, and I played the foil to his lead guitar, and so it was able to. I was able to make it more a vocal song than the guitar song. You know what I'm saying? Because people really wait for the guitars. The guitars, if you listen to the original recording, they take about 4 minutes of it. We don't take that much time with the guitars. I like guitar solos, but believe me, I playing at the Fillmore and growing up, I've had enough guitar solos up to my neck and my head. So to me, I'm old school. The guitar has to support the song.
Right.
The song is not a vehicle for the guitar solo. There are songs like that, but I didn't want to do this song like that. I wanted to do it more where you could hear a little more of a soulful vocal with some soulful backgrounds and have Morale just do his thing, like him and his daddy, Larry. And then I would play foil to his thing. And we played it and people seem to like it, people that have heard it.
Yeah.
Now, doubt if I'm ever going to do it live.
No, you're not gonna go there, huh?
I don't know, but because Morale's going to be playing a lot with me, I just might. Yeah. I just might.
Yeah. Well, the album is awesome. Do you have any shows on the West Coast yet lined up? Like, are you coming back this way?
Not yet. I've been on this tour with Thorogood here, playing acoustically, open up for George, and now I got to do this record release party here on the East Coast, and I'm doing some things for the indigenous people. I always do a lot of stuff, so I'm doing so I'm sort of doing this. I don't have any plans, excuse me, for the West Coast at the moment, but I know that we will be doing something, back home. I just don't know when.
Yeah. Well, I saw you a couple years ago. I mean, the first time I interviewed you was at Yoshi's. That's always a good place to play. I mean, there's a bunch of great places around here, right? So, yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time today. I mean, it was great to catch up, Joe. And I mean, you have endless stories. So I'll talk to you every album you come out, which is about every year, right? So we should definitely put some time on next year to.
Well, this is a special. This is a special one because this one's 30. This is the 30th album. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a milestone for sure.
Since 1986.
Yes. I mean, and so, like I said, there are a couple years where you didn't have one, but
I made up for it though. I had three in 1 year.
You did.
And all three record companies were pissed off at me.
I'm sure there were, but let them be pissed off. The music lives on, the blues live on, and and you keep on trucking, right? So
right on.
Yeah. Well, Joe, have an awesome rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you soon and catching up again soon as well. Okay.
Thank you. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
That was the interview with Joe Louis Walker here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right, I have a couple of stories about what's going on in the music world right now before we wind out the program. So first off is about Adele, first story. She's reportedly in talks to secure a venue for a Las Vegas residency, although plans aren't finalized yet. She's looking for a venue to host the residency, and she has a new single, Easy on Me, that just came out this week. And so she's considering Vegas for a stint. And there's in support of her upcoming album. It'll be her fourth album, rumored to be titled 30. Okay. So she's deciding between the Park Theater at the Park MGM Las Vegas or the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace. And the venues, both run by Live Nation, have dates available to hold the concerts in 2022. Apparently a deal's been in the works for a number of weeks. And Adele's booking agents have not placed any holds yet for arenas or stadium gigs in North America. So we'll see what happens with that, if Adele's going to be hanging out in Vegas for a little while, right? All right, from one female musician to another. Next story is about Brandi Carlile. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, how she'd been playing some shows with Soundgarden. She has a new album called In These Silent Days. She was also just here in the Bay Area in Napa playing Bottle Rock. And she told Rolling Stone that she's inextricably linked to Soundgarden for life. Her new album, In These Silent Days, is out now. She keeps herself more occupied with her own touring and recording career. But on next week's episode of Rolling Stone Music Now podcast, she reveals one side gig she'd definitely take on. She would make the time to tour as Soundgarden singer, she said. She's such a Chris Cornell fan. Obviously Chris Cornell died back in 2017. She said, I loved him so much. I was so devastated when he left us. And she's been singing with the surviving members a little bit, right? During some Cornell tributes in Los Angeles. She went to record a Record Store Day single, Rooster Says, with them, and her longtime bandmates Phil and Tim Hands Are Off released last September. They did that, and the band joined her on stage in August for performances of the two songs they recorded together, Black Hole Sun and the Bad Motorfinger cut, Searching with My Good Eye Closed. She also grew up just outside of Seattle and feels deeply connected to Soundgarden and 90s grunge. And so there's a lot of tie-ins for her, and she would absolutely like to do that. And it sounds like, they might be open to the idea. Hard to say. They're not really commenting other than doing, playing some shows with her. So we will see. Ozzy Osbourne has revealed that he's collecting guitar gods for an upcoming LP. Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Black Sabbath's Tony Iommi, and longtime collaborator Zach motherfucking Wild are going to appear on an all-star follow-up to 2020's Ordinary Man. And in an interview on his namesake's channel, Ozzy's Boneyard on Sirius XM Radio, Ozzy gave a progress report on his new LP, which, like Ordinary Man, is produced by Andrew Watt. Asked about collaborating with so many rock legends amid a pandemic, he said, "You just write the songs and you just ask them to sing or play what you give them. The good thing is it's interesting to work with somebody else, but the bad thing is if you don't work, you can't just let it go because they'll get all pissed off." He didn't find any situations where his collaborators rejected his songs. He said that Clapton had minor issues with their song featuring the word Jesus, but he still delivered a very good solo for the track. Watt previously stated that other new album guests include Metallica's Robert Trujillo, a former member of Ozzy Osbourne's band, as well as drummers like Red Hot Chili Peppers' Chad Smith and Foo Fighters' Taylor Hawkins. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, that's an incredible lineup. And love Zach Wild, big Zach Wild fan. He was recently back in the Bay Area playing a show. I saw some video of it, and he's still got it. It's amazing. I've been fortunate enough to interview him, I think 3 times now. Back in the day, I haven't interviewed him in years, but he's such a badass on the guitar. He's one of my favorite guitar players, and it's incredible. So I look forward to giving that a listen. Okay. Detroit is renaming a post office after Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin has been posthumously honored by her hometown of Detroit, which recently named a post office out of her, formerly known as their Fox Creek Post Office. The Aretha Franklin Post Office building was celebrated with a ceremony on Monday, the AP reported. It's located 5 miles east of downtown Detroit, close to a concert amphitheater on the Detroit River, also named after her. The legislation to change the post office's name was introduced by Michigan Democratic Representative Brenda Lawrence in January and signed by President Trump after passing through Congress. So her legacy lives on in her music, in her family, but we have added to the list of her legacy a post office with her name on it, Lawrence said. Sometimes people wonder if Congress can come together. Gary Peters added, Congress can come together when it comes to standing up and recognizing this amazing person. So good stuff for Aretha Franklin and her family. All right, last story of the program is about, of course, the one, the only Mr. Dave Grohl. He just put out his memoir. It is called The Storyteller. That is a bookmark. I am reading The Storyteller currently. It came out yesterday. It showed up at my house yesterday with Dave Grohl on the front and back cover. And I've been reading as much of it as I can. I was up past my bedtime a little bit yesterday, but I'm trying also not to rush it too much because you want to enjoy it. So I'll just say I'm really excited that 2 of my favorite musicians, Dave Grohl and Andrew McMahon, both have memoirs coming out this month. Pretty incredible. And it's duck hunting season is opening back up in a couple weeks. So I'm going to get out and hunt some birds soon. All really good news, right? So Dave Grohl says his whole life is an out-of-body experience. Publishers suggested he should promote it with a couple of speaking engagements when he decided to write a memoir. A simple idea: read a chapter or 2, play an acoustic Foo Fighters song, take some questions from fans, sell a skipload of books, right? Nope, not how Dave Grohl does it. I've turned it into an entire production, he said, the night of the first show, a little sheepishly, but with a side order of pride. I just wrote the show 5 days ago, and basically I show people how I learned to play music over the years, which is kind of what he talks about in the book as well. The show starts with him sitting on the floor of his bedroom, bashing pillows and tapping out rhythms on his teeth, both things he talks about in the book. Just like he used to do in the days before he'd saved enough money to buy his own drums. Later, he demonstrates how he'd record primitive songs on his old ghetto blaster before wheeling out a proper drum kit and thrashing out Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. The improv show is a demonstration of Grohl's infectious enthusiasm, not just for music, but for life. At 52, he's the proverbial cat who got the cream, as well as a festival headlining a rock band. It's something he can never quite wrap his head around. He says, in the book, I'm basically writing from the perspective of someone that feels like they're having an out-of-body experience. I can't believe this has happened to me, whether it's getting to jam with one of my all-time heroes or just being able to jump on a plane, have a drink, and fly to the next town to play to thousands of people. Every day I have these moments where I think, oh, this is what I'm going to see just before I die. And he goes on, to talk about the experience. But Dave Grohl, motherfucking badass, love it, and look forward to finishing his book, which I'm sure I'll be done with by the time the next episode of Concert Pipeline's out. All right, that is our show for today. You know what? We didn't have any music on the program. Why don't I close it out with one of the songs from Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness is set at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco this week. We're going to play some music to take us out. This is a song called She Paints Me Blue, off of, it's an old Something Corporate song that Andrew McMahon has. He did that night. So we have a couple artists coming up on the program. Toby is one of them, goes by Toby. And then also Carmine Apis is coming back to the show. So look forward to chatting with both of them in the coming weeks. So for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time. You're mine.